Hey everybody, Bailey here.
With Thomas.
And also,
Felicia, hi
hi
everyone.
Felicia. So we're back because we feel like there's some unfinished business after our panel discussion. I think, well, I know you're watching this because you just watched a really enlightening panel discussion with our friends and wizards of floristry, Mima Davis and Miranda Dushak and Shanti Raid. We had a really great conversation about farmers markets, and honestly, it went a little deeper than I thought it would, a little more philosophical. We got into some really interesting points about who should be doing markets. What are you trying to achieve by doing markets? What does your community have to gain from you being there? I think these are really great, really honest conversations that you tend to get into when you are surrounded by other flower farmers. What we didn't really get to were just some kind of nitty gritty detail questions. You all sent us so many questions and we love that. So we don't want to ignore your questions. Thomas and I did markets for
7 years?
seven. And we really love being at market. It was always stressful getting to and from market, but we feel like we were pretty good at market and we want to help you with some of these questions that you had. Anything to add?
No, I think that's about it. We had an interesting relationship with markets in that our business was a flower farm and a bakery. Bailey, the flower guy, I had a bakery, pastry shop, catering operation at the time. So our booth was always a double wide with flowers on one side, pastries on the other. And so we had sort of a unique experience at our markets because of that. And I think a couple different things to offer those that are interested in getting into the farmers market world or in spicing up the way they're currently doing it. So we have Felicia here on the other end who's going to be spitting some like rapid fire farmers market questions at us that were sent in from all of you. So we're excited to get into it.
What can I do about other vendors underpricing me with their comparable product?
We talked about that a bit during our conversation. There's not a lot you can do about it. The thing that doesn't really help is just like going on Facebook and complaining about someone else at your market. What might help is actually going to talk to the person who is undercutting you, and maybe they don't understand the value of what they're growing. I know when we were at the Burlington Farmers Market in Burlington, Vermont, Nicole DeGata from the Painted Tulip, we would try to go touch base before every market and just sort of compare our prices and make sure that we were selling roughly in the same ballpark. Everyone has the right to set their price. We all have different costs of production. If you've got 5,000 peonies that you inherited from your grandma and they've just been flowering for 40 years, you really have no money in them. You don't need to make so much from them, but you might be missing an opportunity if you sell them for 50 cents, a dollar each. You're definitely undercutting the new kid on the block who just spent, $2,000 putting their peony, installing their peony planting. There's a lot of other factors about pricing that need to be discussed. Quality is the main one. Just because you grew it and it has a flower on it doesn't mean it deserves full price. Stem length is perceived as value. Your flower size, even the weight of the stem are sometimes used to quantify what a flower is worth. It's also a simple supply and demand issue. Sometimes supply far exceeds demand, and you might need to lower your prices to move your product. It also might make sense for you to just not sell at that lower price. You don't want to educate or condition your customers that you are the bargain vendor. It really depends, and that's part of what is so difficult about pricing. Who are you selling to? How much are they buying? What's your quality? What's your supply at the moment? What is the pent-up demand? Any
I think adding to that would be just you need to think like a business person. There's no like secret answer, one-stop shop shortcut to running these numbers. You just need to be a business person. By that I mean know what your inputs are into this market. How much did it cost you to put together your display? What is it costing you to be just present at each market? What are the vendor fees? what sort of insurance and other expenses are you incurring by being at this market, and add that to your cost of production. At this point, if you're selling flowers at a farmer's market, you should already know what it's costing you to grow those flowers. And if you don't have that information, then you shouldn't be selling at a farmer's market yet. And so look at what it's costing you to grow these flowers, what you need to pay your employees to help you out the market, and the amount of time it'll take you to vend at this market, to drive to the market, to set up, to go to the meetings, and then just do the math. What do you pay yourself? What do you need to make in order to recoup your costs and show some profit? And don't forget to set some aside for taxes if you're in a state and a position in which you need to do that. All states are different. And just go from there. Set your price based on what you need to make, and don't let someone else's prices influence yours, because there's a good chance that that person isn't doing the math or running the numbers properly, and they're very likely, or at least possibly, losing money on their flowers they're selling at the market. And that has nothing to do with you. Focus on yourself, grow a good quality product, set your price, and stand behind it.
Let's say back to the original. I know we could talk about pricing for an hour. To the original question, if someone's undercutting you, maybe they're not going to stop. So maybe you just need to grow something else. There's a group of flowers, I think zinnias and sunflowers might typify them most, that I've heard called vegetable flowers. So the flowers that vegetable growers tend to gravitate towards. They grow them because it makes their booth look pretty, and it does. But really, they're there to sell the vegetables, and the flowers are a bit of a loss leader. They're just to get you into the booth, and something that they may sell for $3, I wouldn't sell for less than 12. So we really didn't grow any sunflowers or zinnias or those things that we knew would be at market in abundance at a low price. In other markets, they can be a really great moneymaker for you. So it's just going to depend.
So our growers and yourselves have done different things at market, like growers bunches, mixed bouquets by the stem, or a stem bar. Obviously, it depends on your clientele and your market, but what did you find to be most profitable? What would you suggest for a new vendor?
I say just test your market. We mostly did straight bunches or even straight stems. So with ranunculus, the best of the best would go in a vase by itself, and those were available by the stem. And then the second quality, I would put in a bunch of 10. And maybe there was, if you bought 3 bunches, you might get a small discount. We did a lot of volume discounting. Never put anything on sale, but if you bought more, you saved a bit. We would make some bouquets, especially if there was something I had a lot of and I needed to move it. I would add the necessary stems, to that bulk item in order to sell it. But generally, we were a straight bunches and stem kind of vendor. Again, it's just going to depend. Put the bouquets out. Do they sell? They sell better than your straight bunches? Then maybe you're in a bouquet market. We had a lot of people making bouquets at our market. Maybe that's why maybe our customers were more interested in doing their own designs. So they just wanted to handpick what they wanted. They would also pick their things and hand them to me and ask if I can mix them up. And that's always fun. That was fun for me to do as well. Again, it just depends. We're going to say that a lot today, I think.
Yeah, I think to add to that, something that we touched on in the webinar was the idea that there are no rules at market. You don't have to have a 10-stem bunch. You don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want. And so what Bailey was just talking about our straight bunches, we might have a whole section of everything here is $15 a bunch. There might be 12 stems in there. There might be 8. There might be 20, just depending on what the crop is, how it's looking, how mature it is. But everything you see is $15 a bunch. If you buy 3 of these bunches, it's $40. And we sold a lot of product that way. And that, to be this example, folks might pick 3 or 6 of these $15 bunches, hand them to Bailey and ask, can you put these all together and tie them up so I can gift them to whomever? Bailey mentioned we didn't sell a lot of mixed bouquets at market. It just wasn't quite our thing, but he was always available. Bailey or others working our booth were available to make them to order. And it was really fun to watch. We were fortunate. We had a big booth. There were at least 3 or 4 of us working our booth, sometimes 5 every Saturday. We know that's not everyone's situation, but it would free Bailey up to just be talking about flowers with our flower customers, not ringing people up, just wrapping bouquets, or even just talking about flowers. And so we trained our customers over the years often to come up to Bailey and say, I'm looking for something maybe with some purple, blue, pink, and white around like $50. And he'll say, great, come back in 30 minutes and I'll have that bouquet ready for you. And so Bailey's there pulling out of buckets, making a bouquet, and people are passing by and they're watching because it's easy for all of us in this business to take for granted, but not often does someone get to watch an expert florist put together a gorgeous hand-tied bouquet in front of their eyes. And so while Bailey's making a bouquet, people walk past and ask, hey, what's going on with that? What are you doing? I want one. How does this work? And it would just sort of snowball from there. And so we know that not everyone would have the time to have that sort of made to order bouquet system at their market, but it worked really well for us. And usually after that first order, it would just sort of continue on for a couple hours or so. And you could charge a premium for these custom bouquets.
That's okay. It's a bit of showmanship, right? If you find yourself not having something to do at market for a minute, like don't sit down, don't look at your phone, don't look away, make a bouquet. Take your time doing it. Involve other people in what you're doing. It gives them something interesting to look at. They're there to be interested. They're there to be engaged. I think I don't remember who, maybe everyone said, people come to market to talk to people. They're there to make connections. And you can do that a number of ways. One of which is, showing them how you make a bouquet.
We have a question here from a brand new flower farmer who doesn't have much product yet to show. How could they pitch themselves to a market, or is this a good venue for them?
The first year, or the first 2 years, the first 4 years are really tough. You don't really know how to time things. You don't know what you're going to have. It could be that, like every market we ever did had some kind of fill-in spots. Someone's out for the week and they allow you to be on a list. You can show up for that week and kind of kick the tires on the market. They can see what you're producing. That's a great way. Talk to the market manager. Be honest. Say, hey, I'm starting this out. I'm new. Would you call me if you have an open spot? Because I would love to share my flowers with you. You have to be confident in yourself that you know what you're producing and that you have the quality, and you better have a cooler so you're delivering fresh flowers on that day. There's no worse publicity than bring old tire flowers that only lasts a day or two after someone buys them. Some markets do require photos, and that's great, but really, I think every market we did also required you were kind of provisional to start with. You'd have to prove yourself. And so you want to show up, you want to be able to have a beautiful display. Ideally, you're going to have a full display, but surely farmers understand that it's hard to time your crops exactly, especially in your first couple of years. As long as it's fresh, as long as it is good quality, get in any way you can, but make sure you're representing yourself well that first time out.
Great, I love that. Quick stuff. Did you wrap your flowers in a paper wrap or just rubber band them?
All of our flowers were wrapped in paper. We had a kind of black and brown paper. It was different than what everyone else used in the market. It looks kind of New York City, kind of rich. Our whole backdrop at our market was really dark gray, which let the flowers pop. I had a flower shop in Philadelphia, as you remember, Felicia, that was kind of the same concept. Flowers look really great against kind of a dark drab background for whatever reason. I mean, we know the reason, but the customer doesn't understand why things look so good. It's because you have this gray background. It just is a really strong contrast to the bright colors of the flowers.
Amazing. How does one prepare for adverse weather, rain, wind, heat, things like that, when the flowers need to still look good and the table needs to stay together?
First of all, you got to make sure your tent doesn't fall or blow over. You need strong, strong weights on every leg of that tent. There were definitely times where we had 4 people just holding down everything, even though we did all things right. That gust of wind comes up And especially I think in the plain states, those shear winds are a nightmare. This is farming. You're going to have rainouts. You're going to have times where you don't sell anything or much of anything. This is part of farming. You have to prepare for that and include that in your really in your pricing. Make sure you're making your money 80% of the time because you get in a bad weather cycle, you may just get rained out a couple weeks in a row, and it's really, really frustrating.
I would add to that, if at all possible, whenever possible, don't call out of the market. You need to treat this like a job. This isn't just a side gig, a side hustle, trying to earn some extra cash on top of whatever else you're doing. To succeed at market, you have to take it seriously and treat it like work. And that means even showing up when it's rainy, when you're going to make very little or even lose money. But who notices that are the customers who do show up in the rain. The other vendors notice that, and the market management notices that. And that's the big one. You want to be friends with and earn as many brownie points as you can with those in the farmers market making decision when it comes time to select your space at the market or call in any sort of or favors or make any changes of market policies. You don't want to be on the outside looking in. You want to be in the inner circle. And how to do that is to take it seriously and show up.
I think on the bakery side, if we saw a bad forecast, you might pare down what you brought. Sometimes we would just leave flowers in the cooler at home rather than bringing them all. Oftentimes the forecast would change and you would get those few sunny hours and you thought it was going to be a complete rain out and you made your money anyway. But yeah, I think just showing up is key. Just know that you're going to have some disappointments doing market. That's just part of the game. It's a gamble.
Yeah, I think to add to that, we discussed in the Zoom webinar that you just need to accept that this is part of that business. There will be some days where you experience loss, and there's so many options of what you can do with those flowers. You can donate them to a nursing home or a church or a school or a community center. It's very unlikely you can claim a loss or claim that as a charitable donation. Talk to your accountant about that. But if you've already claimed the loss from the expense of growing the flowers and then you don't sell them and just give them away, that is not a charitable donation in most situations. But don't take my advice. Talk to your accountant. Or take them home and play and have fun, make some bouquets and photograph them for your social media. Photograph them, make some like fake bridal bouquets to add to your portfolio. And another one of our favorite things about vending at farmers market is trading with other vendors. So maybe on that rainy day when you have a lot of extra flowers left over, that's when you go home with lots of extra veggies and pastries and maybe wine and scarves and candles and whatever else you can, because everyone else has leftovers too. And it's just a day to sort of commiserate and be present. And I think lastly would be those customers that do show up and buy that bouquet. Maybe it's their lucky day and you say, you know what, thanks so much for being here today. We have some extras today. Here's a second one on us. We'll see you next week. And they'll never forget that. And I think that's a very valuable use of those flowers and your time just to show up.
We almost never discounted anything,
No.
ever. But we would often give people an extra cookie, an extra stem, an extra little bundle. Hey, you don't know the Xanthus? Give this a try. You know that you have it extra. You know you're not going to sell it that day. So just send it with someone who will enjoy it and build some loyalty with that product.
Did you all have a farmer's market checklist to ensure you didn't forget something important on market day, especially when you're getting ready at, midnight, like starting so late at night?
I would think maybe our first one or two markets ever, I had a clipboard and my spreadsheet and my pen, and we're loading the truck and I'm checking things off. But for us, that just wasn't realistic. We often had multiple vehicles. We'd load one up on Friday, the next one on Saturday morning, and we had our farm, and then we also had our bakery space. And yes, I was waking up at midnight every Saturday for several years to go to the bakery and finish baking off the breakfast pastries. Meanwhile, Bailey was loading up the loading up the truck with all the flowers from the cooler. So it just wasn't realistic for us to try to also add a step. I could safely say that more often than not, we wouldn't forget things. But that really changed once we had a dedicated farmers market vehicle. I'd say the first couple of years we were piecing together like our little pickup truck and our like Ford Taurus and a rented trailer that we would rent every Saturday to bring to market. And we had strapped to the roof of the car our tables and displays, and we were just piecing it together however we could because that was our only option. And it was during those days that we could very easily leave something at home or forget which vehicle something lived in. But once we eventually invested in, first it was this like miniature school bus that we turned into our market vehicle and then upgraded to an actual box truck, just a standard 10-foot box truck in which we installed some custom shelving and all of our market display, all of our market pieces and bits and bobs just lived in there all week long. And so they never even left the truck, whether it's our bungee cords or our tables, our banners. It would really just be our cash box and buckets and like iPads to charge that would come out at the end of market. And we'd charge those up, reload the cash box. And if there were 3 items on the list, it's much easier to remember than every single piece of our display.
Also really made a point to not like my clippers and other supplies that you might use at market, like do not touch those during the week. It's easy, like, oh, I know where I can get some clippers. And then you take them to the field and then you put them in your pants and then you leave them in your house and they're not there on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
You need duplicate tools. Like don't try to share that. Keep a dedicated toolbox that's just for market. It has everything you need in there. It has some backup stuff. Keep a lot of change. There's no reason to take all your money to the bank on Monday when you know you're going to need a couple $100 in change. Next week, have extra change. Be the booth that everyone else knows, like, oh, they always have extra change. It's such a pain when you run out of fives or ones in the middle of a busy run at market. We were lucky we were across the street from a bank, but they close at noon. And if we ran out of cash after noon, it was always a nuisance.
You never want to ask the customer, hey, do you have anything smaller? They don't like that, and they usually don't. And we don't want to be those guys. I think I would just to add to what Bailey was just saying, two of everything, or having everything for the market dedicated to the market. We got to the point that our display was really big, and I mentioned having a double wide. I think our last couple of seasons it was a triple wide display,
25 feet wide.
There was a lot going on, and there was a lot of construction and assembly that happened as part of our display every week. And so we had a dedicated drill and charger and all the screws and nuts and bolts and all the tools that were needed to even assemble our display. They just lived in the truck. And we would take the batteries out to charge, but that was a drill that lived in the truck. This was our market drill, and it would just it would stay there, and we wouldn't go to it if we needed another drill on the farm, because to show up at market without that drill would be an absolute disaster. I don't even know what we would have done. I don't even want to think about it.
That
My mind
goes,
is something else. You must be able to take a credit card at market. And I talked about the cash box and having change. We knew so many people who dug their heels in on it, like I'm cash only, that I pay 3% in credit card fees. You do, and you charge a little more because of that, but you make so much more when you offer that service. Square was a service we use. It's been a while since we've been in the market game. I'm sure there are others. We would tether our iPad with 2 little iPad stations where people could pay, tethered through our phone if we couldn't get good service. Whatever it costs, it is worth it. People don't always have exact change. They don't have the cash that they need, but they do want to buy your stuff. You should make it easy for them to buy your stuff.
transporting flowers. We mentioned getting a dedicated vehicle. How can you get more flowers into your transport and get them there safely?
That's a little tricky. One thing you need to do is just make sure they're very secure, that they are not falling over. We had kind of metro rack shelves, and we knew how tall of a bucket could go on each shelf. And we would make sure that our bouquets or our bunches were cut to a certain level because we knew they would fit there the next morning when we're pulling from the cooler and putting them in the truck. Things like lilies, they don't mind being out of water for a bit. We would lay those flat on their sides. Again, kind of bungee to the rack so they're not, falling all over the place and breaking. Nothing broke my heart more than like lily buds popping off, You spend all this time growing them and then you damage them yourself in transit. Um, Big flowers are just going to take up a lot of space. That's how it is. Um, yeah, there's no real secret. You can't squish them. You have to give them their space. You don't want to damage them in transit. Just make sure they're secure. Ideally, you deliver them in water, but some things are okay for an hour or so out of water. Just recut them when you get on site. At our last market, we didn't have water, so we had to bring our own water as well. So there's really not much of a space savings taking things out of water only to bring buckets of water to put it back in. Be creative, play Jenga in your vehicle. Do a lot of dry runs. We did so many dry runs setting up our display, figuring out how you pack it, where do the flowers go, what are the things that can stack so that I have more room for my flowers. They're delicate. You want them there in good shape.
Yeah, it got to the point where we would every year, every season of our farmers market, we would breathe new life into our display, whether that was some fresh banners or new signage or a complete remodel of the display. We invested a lot of time, energy, thought, and money into our display. It was not just a pop-up tent with tables and product underneath it. And that really made a huge difference in our success at market, I would say. But with that, we spent so many hours the weeks leading up to market, putting everything in the driveway, all of our supplies, our whole display, our buckets, our bins, everything, and we would load the vehicle up and we would take everything out and try a different way. What if we strap this to the top of the truck? What if this goes underneath here? And that was such a valuable use of time. And we would just lock in exactly how all the pieces of the puzzle fit into the back of the truck. And we would just train our team and to load it up that way. So aftermarket, when we're breaking down, everyone knows this is where the tables go. The buckets get stacked here. The banner is rolled up and goes on this thing. And this is how it all fits perfectly into place. So like having a map to your vehicle, I think would be really helpful. I think what was helpful for us, especially once we invested in the box truck, we had all of our tables and shelves and pieces of the display. We knew exactly how many buckets we could bring each week. Maybe there are lilies or other flowers that we could transport out of water, but every Saturday we could only bring X number of buckets of flowers to market. And so that made it pretty easy too. Like with the trial run in the truck, with the sort of the map of how to load the vehicle, there was no wiggle room there. We just had a maximum number of buckets full of flowers that we could bring each week, and that was kind of that.
Definitely an it depends question, but how do you know how much to bring to the market if you don't have last year's kind of track record? Are you really just doing it on vibes?
Yep, you don't know. If you've got it, bring it. Maybe you'll sell it.
Yeah, I would say the market management should hopefully be able to give you some rough numbers in terms of like average number of shoppers who come through each week. And maybe if there's another flower vendor or several others at the market, ideally you'd have a relationship with one of them. You could just ask them like, hey, what does this look like for you? Roughly, what do you bring? You don't need to ask specific sales numbers, but they could give you an idea of what it looks like for them. And also, you could also just go to that market before you become a vendor, go there, be there first thing in the morning, and just sort of see what the other vendors are bringing and what their setup looks like. And that should give you a pretty good idea of how they're starting their day. But I think you just need to just try it, just do it. I think back to our very first big farmers market. This was in Burlington, Vermont, our first time vending there, just as a provisional vendor. No one knew who we were, anything about us, including market management. We showed up with pastries, flowers. I think we brought eggs. We tried to also bring meat, but they said, you need to slow down. Enough's enough. And I love numbers. I love projecting, and we're like the ultimate brainstormer. So we spent so much time running all the numbers. All right, if there are this many shoppers at market, this percentage of them might stop at our booth. This percentage of them might buy from us. Here's what they would buy. And we thought we had it locked in. So we showed up that first week with exactly what we thought we needed. And on the drive home from that first market, we changed our plan completely. We learned so much about customers' buying habits, what they wanted, when they came, how it should be packaged, all of it. And so It's not maybe not the best answer, or not the answer a lot of folks want to hear, but you just need to jump in, be vulnerable, take a risk, and you're going to learn so much in those first few hours of that first market. And after that, you can kind of formulate your plan for the future and the rest of the season.
So one question we touched on in the webinar is how are you keeping your flowers and foliage from wilting, especially when it's hot in the summer, maybe you don't have complete shade.
Well, one is make sure you're harvesting at the right time. If you harvest some things too early, they're going to wilt regardless of what you do. Condition them well. Often, even 24 hours in the cooler will help plants take up their maximum amount of water. Use, proper post-harvest techniques, flower foods and hydrators. Get the ASCFG post-harvest book. It'll help you figure out when to harvest, how to treat it afterwards, get it fully hydrated before you get to market. That goes a long way. Otherwise, keep it in the shade. If something's starting to go over, get it out of the display. People don't want to see that. And maybe you have some that's, I think Shanti said they have a refrigerated truck that's at market. If you can finagle that, that's amazing because you can just be pulling out cold, fresh stuff all day. Not most I know we never had that, but also we were in Vermont. Hopefully your market's early in the morning. A lot of hot weather places tend to have earlier markets for that very reason. It affects veggie producers, meat producers. None of this perishable stuff likes to be out in the heat. And maybe some things you just don't grow. They're always going to wilt. Pick Lisianthus or pick some of the more rugged, heat tolerant things. Yeah, that's no magic answer there. It's hot.
Or maybe you grow those things, but just don't bring them to market. Or maybe you have those couple of customers that you have a relationship with and sort of train them to pre-order from you, and they meet you at the market first thing in the morning if they really want such and such. Maybe this is sort of your social media approach. On Friday evenings, you could post that you have X, Y, and Z, and if you want me to bring it to market, like pre-order now, and you can bring it to them and must be picked up in the morning. There's ways around that, but yeah, I would agree with Bailey that not all flowers would be suitable for market, and that's okay.
How do you add tax or cover fees for Square, Venmo, or other card servicing charges when you're pricing your flowers?
We have two options. If you're in a state where you have to pay tax on your sales of flowers, most places do. Flowers, food you often do not, but flowers you often do. You can either add it at the end or you can build it into the price. We always built it into the price because I'd rather sell you a $20 bouquet than $20 plus 8%, then we have to deal with coins, etc. I think in our system, we knew that was actually 1872 plus however much tax, but we had it built into the price for that very reason.
Yeah, I think to add to that, to Bailey's point, might be charging $20 for something. We didn't just know what the numbers were because we did the markup. We used a point of sale system for all of our transactions at market, even cash sales. We had multiple iPads set up with cash boxes, and at that time, yes, we used Square. There's lots of other software out there. And we had our entire product line, everything we were selling was in this iPad. And so we would ring up every sale as though people were at an actual store, even when it was cash. So at the end of every market, we could generate a report and know exactly what we sold, exactly what our tax liability was, and just run the numbers that way, and then communicate all of that to our accountant and for our state Department of Tax reporting when we did that every month and every quarter. And I think my biggest piece of advice when it comes to taxes and the finances around just reporting, and you have all these cash sales, do you claim all of them on your taxes? My biggest piece of advice is don't take advice from strangers on Facebook or strangers on YouTube. Talk to your accountant and they'll have the answer for you, because every state is different and the rules are often changing and often ambiguous, especially when it comes to farmers markets. Not every state has super clear black and white rules on how to handle farmers market income or those sorts of sales, because they're just kind of different. They're a bit strange. And I know on the bakery side of things, the state health inspector came several times and said, "Oh, you need to you need to cover all these baked goods, so just wrap everything in plastic." And it's like, "Well, I'm not going to do that, but can you let us know what we're supposed to do?" She's like, "We just need to cover them." It's like, "Okay, great. I'd love to see some language from the state on like how to be compliant. Show me the rule and I will follow it." Long story short, there was no rule in writing anywhere. Her job was to enforce rules that didn't even really exist. And I think the same goes for other products sold at market. And so anyway, don't take our advice. Don't take strangers' advice on social media. Talk to your accountant. If you don't have an accountant, get one. If you have a business and you're selling stuff at a farmer's market, you're a business person. You need an accountant. You need them yesterday. But that's a conversation for another time, and I feel very passionately about it.
One other point on that, you might be getting a lot of cash, and it is really tempting to not claim it. And we knew farmers who never claimed any of that. The downside of that is when you need a loan or you need to prove that you're running a business of a certain size, even to qualify for a grant, they want to know your sales. They want to see your bank statements. And if you say that you've spent 30,000 in expenses and you show no profits, well, you're not going to get that loan. So we reported darn near all of our cash every week.
We reported all of our cash every week.
I mean, it might have taken like $5 to buy a coffee that maybe didn't make it into the books, but beyond that, it all got reported all the time because we were building a business and we wanted to show that we had a track history of making money. So we could be a trusted, trusted with the loan, with the grant, with XYZ.
Yeah, I would agree. This all goes back to the notion of treating this like a business.
Because it is.
Exactly. You're a business person, and when you go to the farmer's market, you're going to work. It's just the same as if you had a retail presence, you had a store, you go, you unlock the door, you turn on the lights, turn that sign from closed to open. When you show up at market, you're doing the exact same thing, and you need to act like it.
The overhead is much lower at market. You don't have to have a brick and mortar store. We treated our space as a store. We built a store every Saturday to welcome our paying customers to our space. Yes, we're in a gravel parking lot, but we viewed it as our store that happened to cost a lot less than a real store would have. I think that mentality will get you very far.
So when you were having a cash transaction, were you entering that into Square as well to track that cash transaction?
Every time.
Yeah. And we would do that not just for like financial reporting, accounting purposes, but for our own record keeping purposes. Of course, going into that first market, your first year, there are so many unknowns. But once you've done it for a year or two or three or five, there's data there. It's up to you to collect it. And so we could look, let's say it's the first weekend of June. We can pull up our numbers and say, what did we sell in mixed bouquets or straight bunches or stems of whatever the first weekend of June last year and the year before? And oh, what was the weather like that weekend? And you can look, like it was sunny and beautiful. It was the commencement for one of the universities in town. We sold all this stuff. There's not commencement this week, but weather is supposed to be beautiful. So we can expect maybe sell a few fewer flowers. And it was able to dictate what we harvested, what we bunched, what we brought every week because we had
what we grew.
Absolutely, yeah, what we grew too, because we had all this data that was just sitting there. It was just a report was just waiting to be generated. And so yes, every single sale would be entered into our point of sale system.
One question we got is, how can you get people interested to sign up for your newsletter?
So we didn't take full advantage of email marketing, at least in the beginning. I think social media was a little different then than it is now. We were on Facebook and Instagram. There was a time when you would post something and most of your followers would see it. So it was a really direct way to communicate. The algorithm changes all the time as to how many people will actually see the thing that you put out there. I think email is probably a much better way to actually reach the people you need now, or you need to communicate with now. Instagram is easy. It's free. Use it for you. Don't just post for the sake of posting. None of the, Urban Buds, nor Whipstone Farm, nor Ardelia Farm, when it was in existence, we weren't really posting anything to there's no self-aggrandizement. It was just, hey, here's what we need to communicate to you. We had this event, we have this for sale, we're coming to market with this thing. Just really like straightforward. Here's what I have, here's what you need to know. Keep it honest. Yeah, we didn't have a system to take in email addresses that I recall.
I think our only bit of that was when we would host our on-farm events. For a number of years, we hosted what we called our brunch and blooms events. We had a beautiful but very rustic event barn, event space on our farm. And for these number of years, we hosted these events where folks would come, have a big brunch buffet, and then a whole floral design experience, farm tour, super fun. We loved hosting those. And we would advertise those events at our farmers market. It was a summer event series, and we would have a beautiful poster and a sign-up sheet at our farmers market display, and it gave us an opportunity to talk about and share our excitement over these events. And so we were able to generate a list of email addresses that way, but it wasn't so much for email marketing as it was for a specific event. But once we had it, we had their email address and their interests, then we had it. And I guess to add to that, our farm was 2 hours away from our primary market where we did all of our sales for a number of years and most of our sales for a number of years. And most of our customers at this market lived in this town. But as we started hosting these events on our farm, most of our attendees were farmers market customers. And once they've driven the 2 hours, come to our farm, seen us in our space, met our dogs, had a glass of wine in our space, we had a completely different relationship. And they would come to market every Saturday, find us, buy our stuff, talk to us, because we already had like a bit of a relationship, like our farmers market relationship. But once they'd been to our space, that took it to the next level. And we generated so much, I'd say, goodwill and just commitment from these customers by hosting the events on our farm and bringing our market customers to us. Of course, that's not something that everyone can do, but it worked really, really well for us, I would say.
Yeah, get that email address by whatever means you need. I would prefer a pad, a tablet, or something where someone can put their own in, so you don't have to type that later and decipher handwriting. I just know my own handwriting. But get it and use that list. We didn't talk. I think Shanti said at Whipstone they have a newsletter, and I believe Urban Buds does as well.
Yeah.
I think it's great. We never did that, but I love the idea.
Yeah, email marketing is probably the least sexy and most powerful marketing channel that we all have access to. So we definitely encourage people to find a way to get people interested. Okay, moving on. We talked a lot about marketing during the webinar, so I'm going to kind of breeze through some of these. We also talked about finding the right market a lot in that webinar. So I think that's something that's really valuable to check out that webinar about which market is right for you, how to find a good one. We talked about rate out markets. Great question here. Second year vendor, and they have a lot of people walking by saying, oh, aren't these flowers pretty, but not actually buying. So how do we convert these customers into sales?
The two things that come to mind for me right away are your flowers might be beautiful, but just the layout of your display might not be inviting. Maybe it's easy to walk past it because the flowers are all in the front. If you just move your tables so people must enter a little bit, maybe that's all they need to be like in the space and feel that they're a part of this experience, not just passing by. And it also might be this person's approach to market, sort of waiting for customers to come up to them. And for some folks that works, and others it doesn't. And I think in that situation, I'm thinking about you, if someone were walking past, oh, wow, those flowers are beautiful, and they kept going, you'd have been right there to be like, great, let me tell you all about them. I'm really excited about these. They're a new variety. This is the first time they've been grown in the US. This is what they're all about. They last for 10 days in the vase. You would love it. Like, if you're excited about it, folks will get excited about it. But if you're just sitting back and waiting for them to come and ask you questions, then that's probably not going to work for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors there. There are the customers who just feel the need to comment as they walk by.
Yeah.
Maybe they're never going to buy anything, but they see you see them, and they think they have to say something.
Yeah.
So you want to be present, but maybe you don't want to be staring down everyone. Maybe they're just feeling a little uncomfortable, like they need to do something. Um, that might be a good time for you to be making bouquets. And you think, oh, thank you so much. We grow them all ourselves, and leave it at that. Make it comfortable to engage, but yeah, there's so many factors.
So in the early part of the season, or maybe you're in a year-round market, what can you sell when you don't have flowers? Are there some directions or ways you can think about this?
Oh yeah. So in Vermont, our first market was always first weekend in May. That sometimes hit Mother's Day, sometimes Mother's Day was the next weekend. It generally lined up well with tulips for us. But then we would sell our entire tulip crop in a few hours, and we didn't have much for the next few weeks. Planting perennials, planting bulbs, planting overwintered hardy annuals is going to help get you to market sooner. No reason you shouldn't be selling bedding plants in the early season. Part of why Farmer Bailey has a lot of herbs is for this very reason. It's easy enough to get an herb plant, an herb plug, a month earlier, grow them into a 6-pack, put them in a 4-inch pot, um, fill up that space with plants. They're kind of a pain to move around to market, bedding plants. Um, they seem expensive, but they're kind of low value in terms of the space they take up. But you're going to have a full booth. Fill up that booth with plants. Grow a cutting collection, cutting garden collection with lisianthus, with poppies, with pansies, whatever. People want to buy from you. They're excited you're there. Give them something to buy. I think plants are a really great way to fill up that space until you have flowers available.
I would just ask Bailey if you can touch on some of the other perennials and woodies and things that we used to grow to bridge that gap in the early season. I was actually just looking at photos the other day of our like May and early June market displays. It was fun to see all of the like pussy willow and all these other things that I had forgotten about.
Yeah, we grew a lot of pussy willow, a lot of curly willow, red stem and green stem dogwood. Those things hold in the cooler for a really long time. Out of water. If you put them in water, they start sprouting. Hold them in the cooler, but no water. You can sell them well into springtime. They pair well with tulips. They also take up a lot of space. Sometimes just having something bulky to fill up your space is really nice. Hopefully people buy it. If they don't, at least you have a full looking display. I can't stress having a full looking display enough.
Yeah, I would emphasize that it's worth your time figuring out what to bring to market to fill that gap when you don't have a lot to bring, just to show up, to be present, going back to earning those brownie points with market management, but also showing the shoppers that are there every week that you're there with them every week and you're the booth that they walk past. Maybe you don't have much in the way of cut flowers to sell. They might not need veggie starts or herbs or bedding plants that you have, but you're the person that they walk past to look at the beautiful plants, or they come to ask you questions about their garden, ask you plant questions. But just having that stable presence every week is so important, even though when the temptation is there to take a week or 2 or 3 off until you have more product to sell, it's an absolutely like crucial use of your time to be there, even if you're barely making any money, in my opinion.
One of our customers said their biggest challenge is that they're spending Thursday and Friday prepping. They're there all day Saturday, and then they're just totally beat up on Sunday. How do you avoid burnout and kind of like achieve a better work-life balance if this is the venue that you're choosing?
We knew that. We used to do a market on Thursdays, and then we did our big market on Saturday, which was 2 hours from home. I would say the Thursday market was 90 minutes from home. Saturday was 2 hours from home, and then we did another market on Sunday, which was almost 2 hours from home, an hour and a half. We know what it's like to hit the wall. We know about feeling beat up. At some point, you have to prioritize your health and your well-being. Do you need to hire someone to help you get ready for market? Then you need to do that. It means you might need to sell more to pay for that person, but at least you're going to have your sanity, your well-being intact. It's a fine balance. I can feel that feeling right now when you just run out of steam, but you still have like 4 weeks or 4 months of the season left. Do whatever you can to stop short of that. Notice when it happens. Forgive yourself if you're beating yourself up over it, but then figure out the change. Most likely it's just getting more help. Um, yeah, or just finding efficiencies elsewhere, but it's often just comes down to humans with hands doing things.
Yeah, I would agree with that on all those points. Especially if you're starting out, you're a new business owner, farmer, grower, you might not be ready to take that leap into being an employer. You might not think that you can afford it. The idea of figuring out payroll and those tax liabilities and workers' comp can be really, really daunting. But if you're at the point where you're working that much, that many hours to make these sales, and if it still feels worth your time and you're making enough to justify it, then your business is likely at the point where you can afford to hire some help. Maybe it's just on Saturdays and maybe just for a few hours. You might not need someone to be there the entire time that you're at market. Let's say it's a 4 hour market, that'd be kind of long. You might show up an hour and 90 minutes before market begins, takes an hour to break things down. You don't need someone there those full 6.5 hours. Maybe they just show up an hour after the market starts. They're there for 3 hours and they leave. You pay them 15, maybe $20 an hour, and they walk away with some free flowers, and maybe they get to barter with some other vendors. They also get some veggies and a jar of honey. They're happy as a clam. When we first brought help onto our market days, it felt really scary, really daunting. It's like, who do we think we are? We should be able to do this ourselves. But it completely changed our lives. And we made a lot more money because of it. I believe that Shanti was talking in the webinar about how they have employees at market to handle all transactions. They have employees working the registers so that Shanti and her partner Corey can be there to be restocking, but also interacting with customers. And so if they're frazzled and trying to get the line down at the register, they're not there to say, hey, look at this cool new product. Let me talk about these flowers. What was your name again? And have those connections, build those relationships like we keep talking about to generate more sales. So by bringing in that little bit of help for us to just run the register and help us keep the line moving, we were able to build those relationships with customers, keep the display looking full and beautiful, and make a lot more money by paying someone to come just for a few hours. And it balanced out and then some right away.
This could also be a person that is making, beautiful composed bouquets every week and thinks that they have to do that. Straight bunches are much easier. It's much easier to put 10 of the same thing or 8 of the same thing together than it is to make, a curated mixed bouquet. You can really waste a lot of time overthinking the market bouquet. Sometimes I would overthink one that I thought was the best bouquet ever. And then I would mix random things, leftovers, bad colors, and that one would always sell before the one that I thought was the most beautiful. So you don't really know what your customers want. But yeah, try doing some straight bunches and see how those go because they are really a lot less work. Happy to say so. You have anything to say?
How do you decide to phase out of a market?
Global pandemic certainly helps.
Worked for us. Yeah.
We would do it again, but would have that moment like, oh, it's so much work. Do we really want to do this? We knew when COVID happened that we would not have as many people in the market. And we really needed every person there in order to make our vision happen. Yeah, I don't know. I think ideally, we're all selling to multiple outlets. It's really hard to make a living just doing a farmer's market. Maybe you can build one of those up to a point where you can justify letting go of the market. It's really scary. A lot of our farmer friends who are in markets are exhausted and they're always looking for a way out, but they still make good money and it's really hard, really scary to step away. So I guess try to start something else that can offset that income. Maybe something that if you had a little more time to devote to, you could build it into something else.
You mentioned our friends who are making good money at market. I would add to that. They think they're making good money at market. I think with the farmers markets, it's so easy to focus just on gross sales. At the end of the day, we used, well, our early days, we used this like cute little antique green lunchbox to put all of our cash in. And we'd get in the van and drive home. Bailey would drive home and I would count all the money in the lunchbox. And it'd be so easy to think, wow, look at all this money we made today. And we could put a dollar amount on the day. Gee whiz, we're getting rich selling flowers and cookies. And of course, we grew and evolved, and over the years, things changed and became more digital. And anyway, there was still this dollar amount on like today we made blank. And then when we finally started to really look at the numbers, not just look at what are our weekly or seasonal market fees, what did it cost us to buy these tables and this signage, these iPads, et cetera, but really look at our cost of production and factored in our labor and our farm labor. They're not at market, they're working the farm, growing, harvesting, bunching the flowers we bring to market, but it's the money that we're paying them to do that work is playing a huge role in this whole exchange here at market. And so looking closely at the numbers, I think a lot of folks would be pretty startled by how little they might actually be making at the farmers market, especially factoring in your labor as the business owner, as the producer. We went for years without really thinking about it. It's like, oh, well, like our time doesn't count. And maybe at first that's your only option. Like you can't factor in your labor. You're putting in sweat equity. It's a new business, but once you're at least a little bit established, that's going to have to change. And I think once you factor that in and you pay yourself more than $5 an hour, you might reevaluate if your market is right for you. And maybe you're not making enough at that market to really justify all that work that's going into it. And that's okay. Saying no, saying that something isn't working, recognizing, hey, I've done this thing for 5 years. I kind of enjoy it. I'm tired. Um, I need to do it because it's what I've been doing. No, I think it shows a tremendous amount of strength and maturity as a business owner to know when it's time to walk away and say, you know what, this isn't for me for any number of reasons. And those reasons are none of your business. I'm walking away. Bye.
We were really fortunate in the early stages of our farming career to connect with this Beginning Farmers program through the University of Vermont. That's actually how we found our accountant. In the first place, they helped us get set up with QuickBooks and understand our numbers, understand how to be compliant with taxes, but also really how to dissect everything. You know, at that point, we were raising pasture pork. We thought we were starting a goat dairy. We had goats. A sheep dairy, maybe a cheese making operation.
We were breeding rabbits.
We had heritage poultry. We were shipping baby chicks. And we were doing these things well. Yeah. And you would have been really hard pressed to tell us that none of these things are really viable. But when you made us look at our receipts, look at our time, look at everything with a magnifying glass, it was uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, this is not the dream I had, but it's the reality. Like, well, we're going to spend all of our time doing these things that don't make us money. You know, farming is a commercial venture. We needed to make money to support ourselves, and we simply weren't. So we let a lot of things go. It was really uncomfortable to sell the goats, to, you know, admit defeat, but that really freed us up to do things that did make money and it trained our brains in a way that's still with us. You know, you can do some things that are good for the heart, but if you're doing things that are good for the pocketbook, you need to really look at the bottom line.
I think that's all our questions. Thank you so much for taking this time to answer all our great viewers' questions. And thanks to all our viewers and customers who submitted them through the website and during the live. And if you haven't watched the expert panel farmers market webinar, check it out on YouTube and on the Farmer Bailey blog. It is full of good advice.
I agree. Yeah, thanks again to Shanti and Mima and Miranda for their wisdom. I hope we filled in some of the gaps from a more practical standpoint. And thank you, Felicia, for putting it all together.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas and Bailey. Great chat, great hang. I look forward to seeing you for the next webinar.
We'll be there.
Felicia. We'll see you soon. Thanks.